Wait. Before we start, just want to make sure we're clear here. While this podcast talks about sobriety, mental health, and addiction, it is not meant to replace professional medical advice. Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety.
I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Sonia.
And we're ex-sisters-in-law, brought together in marriage and bonded through our sobriety journey.
Join us as we talk sobriety, addiction, and everything in between. You're in for quite a ride. And our Substack is buzzing with amazing content, from creative mocktail recipes to insightful courses and reflective exercises. There is something for everyone. Don't miss out. It's a great way to add some extra joy and depth to your journey. Check it out. Hey, Arlina, I'm really excited about step 3.
I was just teasing you because you were like, I hated step 2, but step 3 is great.
Yeah, step 2 was just tough. Like, I think the language was tough. It was like more of like a mental hurdle, but actually it's interesting. I feel like once you get through that mental hurdle, step 3 is a lot easier.
Can I tell you, I so appreciated your honesty about your initial impression of it, because I think that is a very common experience, that when people read something or hear something, they're like, this, then it's like, well, why? And then when we can kind of reason it out, and that's why having a sponsor who understands is good, because they can be like, oh, well, it doesn't actually mean that, or I look at it this way, or if you think about it a different way, then it's like, oh, okay. So
yeah, that's exactly it. In a vacuum, I now understand why people say you can't really do the steps by yourself, because I would have done step 2, and then before we talked about it, I would have been like, I'm done with this. But once we talked about it, I was like, okay, I understand this more. But by myself, me in step 2 was a no-go. But me, you in step 2, I was like, okay, I can get into this.
Yeah. And then you can get something out of it, really, which is really the whole point. And for me, step 2 was like, well, what does God really mean to me? And who gets to decide what it actually means, right? Like, who gets to decide what the definition is? And so tackling the God issue is a really big deal in this whole process, because, the whole point of the 12-step program is to give you access to power, right? Because we show up unable to stop drinking or whatever. And so the idea is that this is supposed to give you access to the power to help you take to stop drinking.
Yeah.
So now we're on to step 3, and I'll go ahead and read it. Step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood. I don't genderize God, so I'll say God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought of this sort of as like the willingness step, like the key to it being willingness. How do you usually explain this step?
Yeah, no, I think you're right on the money. And it's so interesting because it's like making a decision. But a decision comes when you're sort of at a crossroads. It's like, which way am I going to go? Right? Am I going to keep trying to do things my way?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going to be open-minded and receive new information or different information? Like, there's a prayer called the set-aside prayer, and it's like, help me set aside everything that I think I know, so that I can have a new experience. And I'm not saying the prayer right, but that's kind of the gist of it for me. And it was like, oh, help me set aside everything that I think I know. And the interesting thing about this, when you think about what a limiting belief is just a belief that is either incorrect or is missing information. So like when I was trying to get sober, and I was like, I kept trying to get sober, kept trying to do it by myself, my way, with the information that I had. When new information was inserted into my beliefs, then it was like, oh, like the idea that if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. Like,
yeah,
I thought that if I just tried harder, I could figure it out by myself. Turns out I could not, right? So it was like I became willing to see that I actually needed help. There was other information that I could consider that would change how I acted.
Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely not about like self-will as in, is my will strong enough to do this, but am I willing to look at this a different way? Is
Yeah.
how I looked at it. And so, yeah, if I look back on my like drinking journey, it wasn't until the end of it was I willing to consider like abstinence.
Oh, that's,
Willing,
yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing right there, right?
yeah, I was not willing to even consider something that wasn't a version of moderation or something that kept me drinking. I wasn't even willing. And then at one point, I realized I cannot do this. I cannot have one drink, and I have to be willing to say that and think about a life without alcohol. And I had been totally unwilling to do that for decades.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Terrifying. But I think that's what they're saying when
Yeah.
I just like one thing in 12 and 12 really got me when it was like, the more we're willing to depend on a higher power, the more independent we actually are. So dependence is the independence of spirit. And I think that really, that hit like that's exactly it. Right. And so
Yeah.
the more that I was sort of willing to say, it's got to be something else. It's not going to be alcohol. Right. Like, the more dependent I was on a different idea, the more independent I actually was.
Isn't that funny? Like, I forgot about that. I forgot that about the example of how we depend on electricity. We depend on,
Yeah, that is the example.
yeah, we depend on electricity. We depend on like the faucet. You turn it on. We just trust that it's, and because we are dependent on that, it actually frees us up. Like, I don't have to like go down to the well with a bucket and bring water back every day, right? That's one way that dependency, it seems like an oxymoron, right? It doesn't seem
I depend
logical.
on that idea that I depend on the idea that I can't drink. And so that actually, I can do anything now.
Yeah.
I can go to a bar. Not that I do really, but like I can go into any environment and depend on that idea that I can't drink, or I don't drink, or I don't want to drink, or all those things. And it really gives me that independence. If I had a choice every time I went out, whether or not I should have a drink, that is like that's a total lack of freedom for me.
Yeah, it's torment.
It's just torment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why they use that phrasing, made a decision, to turn will in your lives plural. So there's your relationship life, there's your financial life, there's your work, you know what I mean? Like, we have different facets of our lives. And to me, when you make a decision to turn your will and your life over over to the care of God as you understood God, that's why we do step 2 first, because you get an idea of like, what am I really turning my will over to? And it's not, some people misinterpret it as you're abdicating responsibility. That's not it at all. It's the exact opposite. It's a willingness to, like, for me, God kind of communicates with me through people mostly, but also sort of like that quiet internal voice, like at a gut check level. I know if I should do something or if I shouldn't. And whether I listen to that intuition, like, it happens inside me. And so if I listen to that intuition inside me and I take responsibility for how I feel and how I act, it's sort of driven by this internal sense of peace and calmness. There's this idea that this ego speaks first and the ego speaks loudest.
Okay, yeah.
And so if I can sort of work through that to get to what's underneath that, it's the still quiet voice that typically is a decision that results in peace. So that's kind of how it works for me.
I want to like ask you a question about a couple of things you said. And so this is something they say in the 12 and 12, that your logic bolsters ego. And so with respect to alcohol, people will say, I'll turn my life over, but not in other matters. And that stops people, right?
Mhm.
So what does that mean? So you're not just turning your life with respect to alcohol over, you're turning everything over. And so how can you help me accept that?
Yeah, it's something I continue to struggle with, like what is God's will for me? And I
Mhm.
think because it's so interesting because as we grow and evolve, like we're always changing. Like the symbol for AA is the circle, which means
Mhm.
constant, and the triangle means change. So we're
Mhm.
constantly changing, we're constantly growing and evolving. And because we are, that means that how we feel about things continues to change. And so when we have this dependence on a higher power, it's really a commitment to be in the present moment and to check in with self, to check in with your higher power, like at a gut check level, heart level. Like, what is the highest and greatest good for all involved? That's sort of like first principles. Right. And I think it's interesting because it's sort of and I don't know how to say this, it always creates this circumstance where we're always having to depend on this higher power because everything is always changing. And so how do we make decisions? And it's like, you make the decision based on how you feel in the moment, or maybe you think about it and you pray on it for a while and the answer becomes clear. I'm one of those people that says,
Mhm.
God, just make it obvious. Could you just make it obvious for me?
And what happens?
And if something doesn't feel right, then it just depends on the situation. I was just trying to think of a situation. I'm trying different things in my career, trying to decide which direction I want to focus the majority of my time on. And when you're starting something new, especially in business, things are hard. And so it's hard to know whether this is just normal or whether this is God's will for me or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's when I really do lean on other people because sometimes I can get caught up in a silo of my own thinking and I need like an external perspective. And when I talk things through with another person, that sometimes I get that feeling of peace. And I go, oh, I'm probably on the right path. I need to keep going. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of just, it depends on the situation, but God works in my life through people most of the time, but it always comes back to a felt sense that's rooted in love or peace.
Okay. I love that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, 'cause it's confusing. I mean, I'll be 32 years sober this month, and it's still, I'm still human. I still get confused. I have my bless you. I have my like default setting, right? Which is I'm alone. There's nobody's coming to help me. I have to do everything on my own and without constant reminders of, oh yeah, that's right. God's with me. This higher power is with me. If I get away from that, I start falling back into my old patterns of I'm alone. I can't trust the higher power. Do you know what I mean? It's like I fall back to my old default settings. It requires, and that's why they call it a practice. This is all a practice.
Yeah. That's funny. I just wrote something about that like sobriety isn't an achievement, it's a practice.
Yeah. Yeah. One day at a time. That's really all we have. The present moment is really all we have. And we can still plan for things and, all that. But
Yeah. Well, we just spent like an hour before we started recording
I thought we're
talking
Yeah.
about relationships with family, not just our romantic partner. And so, what do you say to yourself when things get tough in those relationships? Do you say, I'm just going to turn this over to the will of God? Like, how do you navigate those types of things?
I was just telling you, I was like, well, what I tell myself is everybody hates me. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but like my default is everybody hates me, which is kind of funny when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Nobody likes me. People just tolerate me. And then I talk to somebody and they're like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Don't believe the lies. You don't have to believe everything that you think. And it's like, oh, really? He did this. So it's kind of embarrassing, but yeah, especially with family, because, I think that family dynamics are so rooted in how they're just so closely tied to how our brains develop. so that when something feels familiar, like those, they say that your family can push your buttons because they're the ones that installed them.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody, even if it's extended family, anytime you kind of get a whiff of something that felt familiar from childhood, we respond in kind. Like a trigger implies a response, right? Like you push a button, there's a response. And so anytime we get triggered, it's because there's some deep-rooted feelings that were either unresolved and we have a typical response. And so when I get my feelings hurt, it's nobody likes me. there's something wrong with me and I need to be different. Like it's my fault. Everything's my fault.
Yeah. How do you overcome that?
So I typically talk with people. I'm reminded, I kind of look back at the calendar. How has my self-care practice been over the last couple weeks? Right? I go, have I been slacking up on that? I go, I haven't really been journaling all that much. Haven't really been. I send gratitude lists to a couple of friends. I'll write a gratitude list in the morning and then I text it to a few friends and then they send me there. So that's like connection for me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And, I exercise, but I need to pay attention to my spiritual health too.
Yeah.
And so this whole thing just came up for me over the weekend where I was like, oh, nobody likes me. There must be something wrong with me. Like it's all my fault. You know what I mean? Not good enough. And after talking to people, it's like, oh, well, that's not even true. And oh, by the way, how have I been taking care of myself over the last couple of weeks? I tend to fall into like the workaholism camp. So sometimes if I get excited about a project, I'll work too hard and I'll stop taking care of myself.
Yeah.
So that's just a reminder. It's just a little reminder. It's like, it's time to get back on the beam. That's all.
Yeah. That's funny. I did that last week where like we changed like podcast platforms. And like I realized as I was about to go to bed one night, I'm like, something doesn't look right about the way it's transferring over. And it wasn't. Something was messed up. I stayed up till like 2 fixing it.
Oh my God.
I just get into this like, I have to fix it. It has to be fixed now. I got to fix it now. Now.
Yeah.
And so there is that sort of, I know this isn't healthy, but I gotta do it. And
Can't let go. Yeah.
Let go.
I'm not great at living with unresolved problems. I think I've gotten better over the years, but that's a very common experience is that you get sober and then we become more sensitive, actually.
Yeah.
Because you're feeling everything. You have access to all your feelings now, which is the good news and the bad news. But yeah, it's important to then take care of yourself so that you can just don't have to carry all this stuff around all the time.
Yeah, it's true. The self-care thing is a big piece. I'm doing an audiobook of Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way.
Huge fan.
And she said something, I might have written it down. Oh, treating yourself like a precious object will make you strong, not weak.
Oh, I love that.
I know. Sometimes we power through so much. Like I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I feel a little nauseous. And it's like, let's go. You're going to feel.
Suck it up, girl.
Yeah, suck it up. And I wonder maybe if this is sort of a moderation thing. Like I don't have to treat myself like a precious object all the time. But maybe sometimes I should on a Saturday afternoon if I just feel like doing nothing and feel like, oh, you know what? I think I need a nap. I think this is what my body needs, or like just listening to it. And some people are so much better at it than others. I was really proud of my boyfriend yesterday because he didn't feel great. He took a day off work and he was like, oh, I thought you'd be mad at me because I took a sick day. And I was like, mad at you? Why would I? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I know how you are. I was like, how am I? And it's like, yeah. And I knew exactly what he's saying, which is like, you work through it, you did, but he slept for like 6 hours in the middle of the day. And I was like, that's amazing.
He really feeling well.
Obviously, your body needed something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you needed something, you gave your body. And he's like feeling a lot better today. But it is interesting how some of us innately listen to our intuition or listen to our bodies. And some of us have learned to ignore those signals. And I think I'm somebody who has learned to ignore the signals.
I would argue that you were probably taught to ignore your feelings.
100%. I mean, when you're raised by people who like walked 10 miles without shoes to go to school. Yeah, for sure. You learn to, you're taught to
we're conditioned.
ignore that for sure.
We're conditioned that our feelings don't matter.
No, and so I do have the weirdly high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
And so, I just had a spinal x-ray. And the guy was like, wow, you never noticed how rotated like your or whatever. I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm like, well, what are the symptoms? Name them. I'm like, yeah, I have those.
You're like, doesn't everybody?
Yeah. What do you mean? I thought that was just like aging. Yeah, it is. It feels really good to take care of yourself too. Once you figure out how to, once you kind of acknowledge it. And I'm just like starting to, I think, more.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about the program in general is that we continue to go over the same information all the time because it's so easy to drift. Like it just happens in these tiny little degrees and we just drift and we don't realize it. But then if you're working with somebody else, like if you're working, then you're just reminded of all the things that you already know. And it's like we have to keep being reminded because your brain will default to factory settings and we forget everything that we know until we start like imparting our wisdom or whatever on someone else. And we're like, oh, that's right. And it's like, oh shit, I needed to hear that myself. There's a line in the book somewhere that says nothing ensures sobriety like intense work with another alcoholic. And
they say that a lot, I feel like, or they allude to that idea a lot.
Yeah, it's because even though we're constantly growing and evolving, we constantly need to be reminded of the information that got us sober in the first place.
Yeah.
There's a saying, don't let the life AA gave you take away from your AA life. Something like that. Because it's like, oh, you get sober and all of a sudden you have a life and you're like, I'm busy. I don't have time for this self-care nonsense. I don't have time to go to meetings. I don't have time.
Yeah. I hear
and then
that
you,
a lot.
And then you slowly drift and then bam, you hit the wall. Doesn't necessarily mean you relapse, but you could have like an emotional bottom.
Is there moderation when it comes to meetings? Like, can you go to a meeting a week or a meeting every 2 weeks? Like, and
what meetings are the only thing I can moderation that I do in moderation, I would say. That's the only, recovery is the only thing I do in moderation. Isn't that funny? Like everything else, I'm like balled out, but self-care, I'll just do a little bit. How little can I do to get away with it?
I was interviewing somebody, taught me, I loved her, and she taught me the idea of like ish. Yeah, I work out most of the time, ish.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we think consistency means daily.
Yes, that's exactly what she was saying. We think consistency means daily.
Yeah, it doesn't mean daily.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's interesting. So I'm going to use the ish as much as I can.
Yeah. There's this guy, Sahil Bloom. He's a New York Times bestseller. He wrote The 5 Types of Wealth. And he talks about dimmer switches. You know, there are certain areas of our life that are on dimmer switches. Like when you have little kids, that dimmer switch is all the way on. And your work dimmer switch goes down a little bit. Right. It kind of speaks to this idea that we have like maybe a finite amount of energy. Right. And so how are you going to allocate that energy? So things are on a dimmer switch. So like the way that worked for me, like with sobriety, it's like when I had a lot of stuff going on, that dimmer switch had to be all the way up. I needed to go to meetings a lot. And so over time, as I was healing and working through things and understanding what was my responsibility and letting go of what wasn't and all that stuff, the dimmer switch came down a little bit. And like the point of, the program and all that stuff isn't so that you live there. It's so that you can get back into life, not to forget it either. So there's like some balance.
Yeah. So that makes sense
there. Yeah.
So, okay, one thing that I highlighted that was written was, as alcoholics, we've suffered because of self-will. So there is this idea. So I feel like there's willpower, self-will, and then willingness. And so can you sort of explain this to me, the suffering because of self-will thing? Is that the trying to do it on your own? Is that the moderating? What is that referring to for you?
For me, it's definitely rooted in sort of self-centeredness. I'm like thinking about myself, like my favorite song is me. I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. That's the kind of thing. Yeah. So for me, it's sort of rooted in self-centeredness, and even the I'm alone. There's nobody. There's no help available. I have to figure it out. That's still that's considered self-will because I'm running on self and I'm alone. It's lack of power. It's self-centered. It's sad. It's fearful. That's kind of how I understand it. And self-will run riot. I have part of my personality. I'm like a dog with a bone sometimes. If my brain latches onto something I think I want, it's very hard for me to let go, and I will bulldoze. I have there is a part of me that has calmed down quite a bit, but I came from such lack that if I wanted something, I would bulldoze, meaning I wouldn't care how I made other people feel to get what I wanted. So that's self-will run riot. And when I'm in that space, ultimately, I don't feel good. I don't feel good about making other people feel bad or not considering somebody else's feelings. And I just end up in a really bad, sad, painful place.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to hit the wall every once in a while and go, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I feel like the theme of my sobriety has been to find the balance and recommit. And it's I stopped beating myself up so much anymore. I realized recently, oh God, I really haven't been doing my self-care, and I'm suffering the consequences. My default, it's oh, nobody likes me, I'm on my own type of thinking. And it's oh, wait a minute, how have I been taking it? So it's I don't beat myself up about it. I go, oh, I just need to recommit to my morning practice again and just try to find the balance between self-care and service of others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of self-will.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good definition.
And if you even want to boil it down to simpler terms, there's a book called A Course in Miracles. And the basic premise is that everything boils down to love or fear. So I'm am I in the space of love, trusting, surrender? It's sort of a lighter way of operating in life. Or am I in fear, which is I feel like I have to control. And am I afraid? Do I have to bulldoze? Do I have to suffer to get what I want? Do you know what I mean? So it just feels different. Even talking about it, am I operating from a place of love or am I operating from a place of fear? Fear is tense and heavy and scarcity or am I just hey, everything's going to work out. I'm grateful. I appreciate my friends. I'm not afraid of, fear is I'm afraid of not getting what I want or I'm afraid of losing what I have.
Is all discomfort fear or no?
No, there's definitely growing pain.
Okay.
We were talking about having uncomfortable conversations.
Yes, that's exactly what I was wondering. I was so is that coming from a place of fear? Because I definitely felt tense when we were talking about that, the having difficult conversations with people.
Yeah, it's totally scary. So the way I think of it, I had to let go of a friendship. And it was a really tough decision. I'm I'm a spiritual person. I should work. I should be able to work it out. I should be able to let it go. I should be able to just accept people the way they are. But it was hurting me. And I think maybe it was hurting them too. If it's not good for me, it's not good for them either, to be honest. If I'm allowing that to
go.
Huh?
How did you do it?
I think I just stopped taking, it just died on its own. I stopped reaching out. I stopped returning, I don't remember there being a conversation, but I was I got to let this go. And it just sort of drifted on its own. It just sort of died out. Because I think it wasn't working. Listen, if it's not working for me, it's not working for them either. So how I knew it was the right decision is I felt peaceful. It was the loving thing for me to do for myself and for them. I have no right to ask somebody to change. I can share how I feel about something. That was kind of the thing, as I remember sharing with her how I felt about. She was saying some things that were kind of condescending and kind of mean. And I was hey, that kind of hurt my feelings when you said that.
Yeah.
And her response was, you're just, she minimized my feelings. And I was like, all right.
No way.
Yeah. She's like, oh, you're just being stupid. She's like, that's dumb. Oh, you're just old. I was like, what? It was, yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't like that. So I'm not gonna keep showing up for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I let it go, and I was sad because I had some shame around it. Like, I should be able to figure this out. I'm a spiritual person. God should be able to fix me.
Yeah.
But ultimately I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I don't want to show up for this anymore. At some point it becomes self-abuse. Like when you show up for people who are being abusive.
Yeah.
So I just had to be like, and then I felt better about it. I was like, you know what? I'm glad I did that.
That's, I guess, how you know is if you feel that peace after.
Yeah. For me, it was a good decision, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So step 3 is turning your life, your will and your life over the care of God as you understood God. And so it's reading pages out of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, pages 58 through 63. And which is interesting because at meetings, this is chapter 5, how it works. And so this is where the steps are. And so this is something that they read a lot at meetings.
I didn't know that. You told me that. And I was like, interesting how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where the steps are. And then it ends on page 63 with the phrase, we are now at step 3. And it says, many of us said to our maker as we understood, and it says him, but I crossed it out, wrote God. So I'm just going to say the 3rd step prayer.
Okay.
Which is, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life may do thy will always. And it's so funny because people get really hung up on the thou and they and the old language. And so, but it does say in here that you could say this, or where does it say it? I think it's the paragraph above, but you can just say whatever you want. And you and I are going to do that. I wanted to do that off camera because I wanted it to be authentic to you. I didn't want you to feel self-conscious about it at all. Because I think it's really important. And if we were in person, the way I was taught to do it was to kneel down and hold hands.
Wow.
And it's just a very intimate, personal experience. And I don't know. For me, it was really powerful. And, but it's sort of like a sacred moment.
Yeah.
To really be in that space of like, hey, I made this decision. I'm turning my will and my life over to the care of this thing that I understand loves me and that has all power.
Yeah.
Rooted in love. So,
yeah, I actually really like this chapter.
Yeah.
One thing they say is we thought we could find an easier or softer way, but we could not. And that I spoke to my experience so much, like this just constant attempt to find an easier way without having to, like, as they say, raw dog it. Like this, like full abstinence, like no weed, there's no nothing, you know what I mean? And so that actually made me feel a lot better because I think, I've struggled with that, which is like, don't use like any substances. And so, and, doing the podcast, you meet people that have, transcended certain things and they're able to use certain substances, but not develop a dependence. And I've been like, I get frustrated with myself and I think, no, I can't smoke weed. I wish I could smoke weed, people.
I hear you, girl.
But I wish there was an easier, softer way for me, but there is not. And so this made me feel like I was amongst people who understood me. Like, these are my people, the people who cannot find an easier, softer way.
For me, this is the easier, softer way.
For me, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. Turns out for me,
Yeah.
this is the easier, softer way. It's hard to do the mental gymnastics of should I, shouldn't I? It's
Yeah,
just
should I have a gummy before I go to bed? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You're right. I didn't even think about it that way. I always think of it as
hard.
obviously, I'm not like white knuckling anymore in that sense. I have days where I'm just like, this sucks. How come I can't have a drink or smoke any weed or like do some cocaine just for fun? But like,
I always say if I could do weed like a normal person, I would do it every day.
right? That's exactly it. That's how I feel too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to do a soft line of cocaine, but yeah, you're right. Maybe this is the easier, softer way. Oh, I never thought about it that way. You're gonna make me emotional because I get frustrated, and
I know.
I'm sure you interview people all the time too who are like, "Oh yeah, like I was like almost like on fucking like death's door, but now I could have like a THC gummy before I go to bed," and I'm like, I can't because I know then I'll do it every day. And then sometimes I'll start doing it in the morning and then I'll do it like midday on a Saturday. And so,
And then back to square one. I have run that
yeah.
experiment so many times. I'm very clear. I do not need any more data.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. But you're right that this is the easier, softer way for me because if I went and I'm in Toronto right now and there's like, I don't know, 4 like weed stores. Yeah, on like my block. Yeah, I can run that experiment and like we all know where it's.
I certainly know where it's going for me, and I'm just not that. I'm not that girl. I know some people are fine with it. You know what's funny is I used to work for this tech company, and all the other inside sales reps besides me, I was the only one that worked for the actual company. They outsourced the inside sales to this company that hired women that had been in prison. And when they were out of prison, then they had a full-time inside sales job. And it was a really cool program. These women were amazing. They were such good salespeople, tech salespeople. And we would have these work events where we'd all meet in person in the state that they were from because they couldn't leave. But we would meet and have these sales kickoffs and they would drink alcohol. And most of them, if not all of them, were there with because of drug-related charges, so like meth and whatever. But they were able to quit the meth and all that stuff, that they would have drinks of alcohol. And to me, they seemed normal. Yeah. They drank an appropriate amount for them. Like, I don't know what that means, but you know, you see people drink and they seem to be fine. They don't lose their shit like I would.
Yep.
They don't go, they have an off switch.
Yeah.
They show up for work. They don't get into trouble.
Yeah.
Like I was very like, wow, that is not my experience.
It's not my experience either.
I just know that about myself. I just can't.
Yeah. And so that was a big one. And so the easier, softer way. And then chapter 5 goes into a lot of stuff about resentment.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us into the 4th step because, you know, right after you do the 3rd step, it's this act of trust and surrender, and it's a building block to step 4. They say that behind every relapse is a resentment, or resentments are the number one offender of relapses.
Yes, the number one offender, it says. Yeah. And it says then to list your resentments, what the effect is, and where are we to blame.
So blame is a funny word.
Blame is a funny word.
It's a little shamey. And I don't know if that has been updated in the new version of this book, the Alcoholics Anonymous book. However, the way I see it is that this is so we're leading into the 4th step. And if you kind of take a step back at a high level, it's license to bitch. Like you get to air out all the ways that people did you wrong. And granted, it's actually a really painful process for most people. Like it dredges up all the old stuff that you've been suppressing, right? But I was just talking to somebody this morning. They were trying to explain the 4th step to somebody else. And they were like, you know, all these resentments are living rent-free in your head. Like these people that you're mad at, they're living rent-free in your head. They have power over you. They have the power to ruin your day. And it's like, do you really want to give your power over to these people that you don't even like? like they have power over you. And so if you want to disengage that, if you want to reclaim your power, you need to just see things as they are. And so the 4-step process is you identify the person that you're resentful at, the specific cause of the resentment, right? So like I'm thinking when I was growing up, I'd get into these arguments with my mom and she'd be like, hey, you did this and you did that. And I was like, well, you did this and you did that. And pretty soon there's 10 things on the table and I don't know what we're arguing about anymore.
Yeah.
There's no clarity, just a bunch of confusion. So this is a way to sort of unpack all your baggage. And the end result is that you identify what you have responsibility for and what you can let go of. And you let go of what's not yours so you can bear the weight of what is. Yeah. And so you get really specific about the cause of the resentment, how it affected you. So does it damage your self-esteem, your financial insecurity, your personal relationship, what kind of fear? So you get really clear about how you were affected. And then the last part is, what was your part in this? And so for me, I felt like a victim all the time because I felt like people were being mean to me. Turns out I was provoking people sometimes and not aware of it. Like I was holding other people responsible for my feelings. It's nobody else's responsibility to take care of my feelings. That's my job. But a pattern will begin to emerge when you start doing your inventory, which is the 4-step is a searching, fearless, moral inventory of ourselves.
Yeah.
But it starts with, who are you pissed at and why? And then how were you affected? And then what was your part in it? And so I know it says, where were we to blame? But really it's like, well, what was my role? What was my responsibility? What did I do? Because that's the only thing that we can really control is our part.
I guess what I didn't love was like, there was the examples were like, you know, Betty and Bob and Jim Bob kind of thing. And it was like,
Mr. Smith is mad at his wife.
Yeah, yes. And they weren't the most relatable examples. I think it was like about a guy, his wife, and his boss or something.
Okay, so I'm actually looking at it. So he's like resentful at Mr. Brown. The cause, his attention to my wife was one.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was jealous.
He was jealous.
Yeah. Because this guy's paying attention to his wife. Like hey, it's like, back off, dude. What are you doing talking to my wife like that? That's inappropriate. So he said it affected his sex relations, his self-esteem.
Yes. They love saying the word sex relations. They love that term.
This is 1935. I don't know how else
sex relations.
I'm surprised they used the 3 letters.
Yeah. It's always nice.
Surprised they said sex in the first place.
Yeah.
And then the next cause was that he told my wife of my mistress.
Yeah. I'd be mad too.
Yeah. So again, sex relations, self-esteem.
Self-esteem. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah.
And so, but that's totally relatable today. I mean, didn't you have a little bit of that going on in your marriage? And you found out that he had
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did find out that my husband had a mistress. You're right.
That's funny. There are some things that never change. Times change, but people don't.
Yeah. No, now that you say it, that's true, right? And so, these things are relatable in that sense.
Isn't that funny? His next resentment was at Mrs. Jones. She's a nut. She snubbed me.
Yes.
He committed her husband for drinking. So he just had this woman in his life that he didn't like. Like, how many times have you heard somebody, oh, my crazy ex-girlfriend, she's a nut.
Now he's a narcissist. We call everyone.
Oh, she's a narcissist. She's a nut. She's toxic.
Yeah, toxic narcissist.
It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
That's funny.
And but what doesn't really go into, like, so this is just his inventory. They don't go into what his part is. I don't think
they did. They just did the resentments and what affected.
Yeah. It's the 3. So these are written in columns. So it's like, who are you resentful at? What is the exact cause? And how are you affected? And then the last part of that is, what was my part?
Yeah.
Right? Where was I being selfish, self-centered, self-seeking? Did I provoke people? Yeah. So let's see, referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs of others. We resolutely looked for our own mistakes. So they traded blame for mistakes. Like, where did I make a mistake? Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Where was I scared?
Mm.
Where was I lying to myself? Where was I
Yeah.
lying to others?
Yeah, it said that it says fear is the thread
Yeah.
through resentment.
Yeah. It's a corrosive thread that something that goes through our whole life. I'm quoting it right.
Yeah.
So the inventory was ours, not theirs. When we saw faults, we listed them, we replaced them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly, and we're willing to set these matters straight. So this is sort of like laying the foundation for an amends later, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Right now, we're just getting clarity.
Okay.
And what
okay.
was interesting, what people will see, what you'll see when you do your inventory is that you'll start to see patterns emerging. We all have patterns. Like, I was very much thinking that I was a victim, when in reality, we had this funny thing in our house, like, where you didn't take responsibility for yourself, but you try to take responsibility for others through the form of control. I abdicated my own responsibility, but I would try, like with my sister, I would try to control her. My mom was like, oh, my sister had mental illness and depression. And, back then we didn't know what that was. Like, nobody talked about that. And so my mom made me responsible for my sister's behavior. And so I was trying to, quote unquote, save my sister. It was a losing proposition. I was 14 years old. I didn't have any skills. It wasn't my job.
Yeah.
But I thought that, it's like I wanted my mom to love me. So I tried to take on that role. But it just created tension between me and my sister because she was responsible for her feelings, not me. And so when I started doing the inventory, I realized, oh, I could let that go. Like, it's not my job to manage or control her, fix her. It's my job to be honest about how I was feeling. Like, it was very, very difficult for me to tell somebody that they hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
That was me taking responsibility for my feeling.
Okay.
And it was hard.
Yeah. That is hard. But
It
that
was
was
so
your goal.
hard.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was frightened. I was dishonest. I was self-seeking. You know what I mean? It was like, I need you to be okay, so don't be mad at me so I can be okay.
Yes. I feel that all the time.
I know, me too. It's messy.
Yeah. It is messy.
It's messy.
And so the other thing that I never really, that we've all heard the Serenity Prayer, but they say in all times of emotional disturbance or indecision, use the Serenity Prayer. And so that is an incredible tool, right? Even the situation that you and I were talking about right before we started recording, if I even use the Serenity Prayer for it, that is very enlightening in a way.
Yeah, like, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Well, I can't change how anybody else operates or how they treat me or whatever. Courage to change the things that I can. Well, I can choose who I spend time with.
Yeah.
I can choose to own my feelings in front of someone and be honest.
To stand up for myself and
kindness and compassion and willingness to validate somebody else's feelings too.
Yeah.
It's not like that takes courage because we're scared. It's scary. If you grew up being taught that you're not supposed to have feelings or to shove your feelings down, then when they arise and you actually take responsibility for them, that's terrifying. You're doing the thing that you were conditioned not to do.
Yeah. The wisdom to know the difference is interesting because I was actually talking to you about like this one situation I'm having, and I would say that you think that I should actively do something about it, whereas my therapist is like, I don't really know if there's a point of you doing anything. And so that's interesting. So we need to figure out the wisdom.
I swear I have such a bone to pick with therapists sometimes. Like, it's like they spend too much, I don't know. Listen, what do I know?
What is your bone? What is your bone? Pick it. Pick your bone.
Yeah. So the guidance you got was it's like, oh, you can't change. It's not worth it. It'll just upset you. You shouldn't address. Did I understand that right? It's
Yeah,
like, oh, you're not going to be able to change
this
that
person
other
is not going to change. Yes, the person's not going to change. It's just going to create more drama in the relationship because you know what this person is like. You should, you can journal about it. You can change your behavior, but addressing it isn't going to help. When I told you the situation, you said you should be like, here are the 10 reasons I'm pissed off at you. And
No, I didn't say that. That is not the way to talk to somebody.
No, but you said like,
I'm
lay
uncomfortable.
out
Like, hey, I need you
Yeah.
to know that I'm uncomfortable with some things that you said and how you're saying them to me. And I just need to let you know that this is how I'm feeling. Like, we need to give people an opportunity. Like, I feel like that's dishonest. It's dishonest.
I see that, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's dishonest to be like, hey, like that hurt my feelings.
It feels dishonest.
Yeah.
It feels dishonest to talk to you about it and not to talk to the person who actually did it.
Yeah. I mean, it's best to have direct communication wherever possible. Like if you find yourself telling, like this is something I was guilty of when I first got sober, I would have a problem with someone, I would tell 10 people about it in the guise of like, what should I do about this? This person is doing all these shitty things to me. But really what I was doing was character assassination. Like, do you know what I mean?
Especially if they have some connection to the person too.
100%. Yeah. I got to the place with my sponsors. Like if I had a problem with somebody in our community, we wouldn't use names.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because, I was a person of long, I had a standing in my community. I was sober a long time, sponsored. I had like a whole bunch of sponsees and stuff. And people would share things with me without asking my permission if I was willing to carry their burden. I'd be like, I did not need to know that about that person. I do not want to know these things. Yeah. And by not saying the person's name, then the focus is just all on me. What are my feelings? What do I need to address? What is but anyway, with the situation that you were talking about, it's like, we need to own our feelings with that person. Be like, hey, I just need to let you know. Hopefully they change if they love you.
But I guess the wisdom to know the difference is really our own wisdom, right? It's like deep down what feels right. And so it isn't what the therapist is saying or what a couple of your friends are saying. I think it's like, I need to develop the wisdom, right? To know the difference between things I can and can't change too.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know that you can't change her. Listen, it's not about control. It's about influence. And if she doesn't know how you feel, how could she moderate her behavior? How could she amend her behavior? She doesn't even know how she's making you feel.
Yeah.
And it's not like she's making you feel something, but it's like, hey, that hurt my feelings. So could you not do that? And if they're unwilling to, that's abusive. If you say this hurts my feelings and they continue to do that, then that's abuse. So then you have to decide whether you want to show up for that or not. And maybe you do. Maybe you do.
No, but yes. Yeah. But no, that's a good way to look at it.
But like, you're not even going to give her a chance to amend her behavior. Yeah. Like your therapist is saying, no, don't even give her a chance. Don't be honest about your feelings. Go ahead and let her continue to abuse you. What is that? So this isn't, I'm sharing my feelings so you'll be different. This is like, I just need to say this to you. And I really hope that you stop doing that thing. Because what you were describing was abusive in my book.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Well, so this prayer ends with, thy will, not mine, be done.
Yeah. That's the prayer that never fails. Thy will be done. Whatever happens, happens. And I think there's a time and a place for all of these things, right? And it's confusing. Yeah. And I think that's why it's important that we talk this out with another person. Because, there's, people will be like, oh, well, you're just answer shopping. If you take one problem and go to 5 different people waiting to get the answer, answer shopping, you're just waiting to get the answer that you want. I mean, I guess you can do that if you want to, but that typically doesn't result in a healthier outcome.
No, that's true. I think we all have a tendency to answer. I don't do that as much anymore. I have usually 1 or 2 people I really trust and and then I have my own feeling and usually it lines up, they line up.
Yeah. And if you feel the need to answer shop, it's because there is something in the presupposition, like in like subconscious belief, that you need to work out. Like you need to run the experiment for yourself. You need to find out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you just need to run the experiment again. We've all had that experience where we have a friend and she keeps going back to a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Do it as many times as you need to.
Yeah. Yeah, we all do have that friend.
Yeah.
And I actually always say that. I always say, like, do it as many times as you need to. No judgment here.
No judgment. Like how many chances do you give a baby to walk?
Yeah.
You give them as many as they need.
Yeah, it's true. I always actually say that. I have a friend who's in a really bad relationship, and I listen and I just think, you just got to go through this.
Yeah, my answer to somebody that's in a unhealthy relationship is that the people we choose to be in relationship are a reflection of the level of our self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So the work really is, I never address the other person. I say, so how's your self-care? What do you feel like you deserve? What can we do to raise the level of your self-esteem?
Yeah.
So that if the person doesn't raise with you, they fall away naturally.
Yeah.
We don't have to attack anybody. We don't have to make anybody wrong. I mean, sometimes people are just plain wrong and whatever. But really, at the end of the day, it's like we need to raise the level of our self-esteem so that we don't tolerate abuse. And I'm talking abuse in a multitude of forms, like words, disrespecting your time, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Arlina, I loved it. I loved step 3.
You and I will say the prayer offline and then we'll move into step 4.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're doing this.
It's awesome. I talk about it all the time.
I'm telling you, the steps are amazing. Just wait. Just wait. It gets better. It gets so much better.
Yeah.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Thank you, Arlina. This was Sisters in Sobriety.
Thank you for listening and being with us today.
If you want to learn more about sobriety and meet your community, find us at sistersinsobriety.substack.com.
Are you a sister in sobriety? Then reach out on social media. We'd love to hear from you.
If you're feeling generous, leave us 5 stars and a review and follow us wherever you listen.
You'll never miss an episode. Until next time.